there, Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of two boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing the sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another snack-sized episode of the Life Management System. I'm your host, Courtney Cecil, and inside this episode, I am happy to re-air something that was recorded for a virtual summit hosted by Dyana Terranova. Dyana is a life coach, and the summit name was Busy Working Moms Blueprint. So you can imagine how excited I was about the summit and just how passionate I am about the topic, given that is the entire premise of my business. So, inside this episode, I'm going to answer three questions. What are some common work-life balance mistakes, and how can moms avoid them? How can moms stop feeling guilty for prioritizing work and themselves? And how can moms set better boundaries between work and home life? I hope you enjoy.
Hey, hi there. Welcome to the Busy Working Moms Blueprint. Plan your week with ease, reclaim quality family time, and be fully present without the guilt. So I'm your host, Dyana Terranova, and I'm going to be speaking with Courtney Cecil today. And so Courtney is the founder of the Working Moms Movement, and she is a work-life balance coach, speaker, host of the Life Management System podcast, author, and head of culture at a Fortune 50 company. So she studied industrial and systems engineering at Virginia Tech and is a proud wife and mom and based in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Courtney believes in building a movement to help busy parents reclaim control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing their sanity or themselves. So today she's going to be talking about how to combat burnout, find less stress, and more free time. But first, I would love for Courtney to share a little bit more of her story with us and how she got here today.
Yeah, well, Diana, first of all, thank you for having me and thank the rest of you for tuning in. I hope you are feeling proud about making this investment in yourself. Moms very selflessly, take care of others, and we rarely take care of ourselves. So congratulations on that. Um, so as it relates to my story, I started out in a very technical type role. But industrial and systems engineering is essentially at its core about efficiency and effectiveness. And what I was seeing is that when you remove yourself from a manufacturing world and you apply that to your life or you apply that to a corporate style business, it shows up in a way that in order for you to do things differently, in order for you to be more effective, in order for you to be more efficient, you have to change your behaviors because you are the one, the human is the one introducing some of those deficiencies and those elements that often trip us up. So it was between and that's actually ironically what led to my career in culture. I've spent the past 12 years in organizational culture, and the reason that I have been able to so successfully do that is because of those early insights coming out of my industrial and systems engineering background. So fast forward, I have two boys. They're 18 months and 1 day apart. And I have no local family. So, what that means is that in those like really young years where you just feel like you're drowning, I was working like 80 hours a week at that point because I was in consulting. And I had no family support to help me. The boys were really young. My husband is in a job that was meant that he was gone most evenings. So I was drowning. And I really had to reflect on like, okay, Courtney, you have the life skills. You have some really core productive technical skills that you apply to your work all day long. Why the heck are we not applying those same lessons, those same problem solving skills and efficiency and effective skills that you've honed over the past 20 years to your home life to kind of dig out of that? So I dug myself out of that hole, got to a place where I was not just surviving, I was truly thriving despite working 80 hours. And I'm not wearing that as a badge of honor and encouraging hustle
Mm.
culture as much as I'm trying to say, like, I was still working a lot and I still had no help and was able to figure it out through what I call a life management system. So it is now, in addition to being the name of my podcast, the Life Management System, that is also the program that I use with my clients, and it is all so it that is what I teach at Working Moms Movement. It is how you build your own life management system. So that way,
Mm.
like me, you can go from a place of surviving, not thriving. And I really almost lost myself. I almost lost my career. I almost gave it up. And I feel so committed to women having the choice, or parents, parents in general, having the choice to have to stay in their career and continue to invest in themselves, or to be able to stay at home. But I don't want them to feel like one of them has to stay at home in order to be able to keep themselves alive and keep their kids alive,
Yeah.
and not lose their sanity.
Yeah. Wow, what a great foundation. I mean, that's really working through it, right? Like 80 hours a week and really working through to get those foundations because it's so hard when you have little kids, right? Trying to figure it out.
It was
So,
a grind, and I really, I'm sure, as with most new parents, there's probably some postpartum. There was probably like terrible sleep, terrible body positivity issues, that sort of thing, but just amplified with the fact that I didn't have support. I didn't have my foundation built, and my husband was fairly absent in the evenings because of his job.
wow. Yeah. I think so many moms face that too, like being a not, and there is so many layers to it, right? The not sleeping, the, overworked, all of that. There's so many layers to it.
Yeah, it's circular, Diana. Like the fact that I wasn't able to sleep did not help manage my cortisol. But then that would magnify my stress. And it was like this cycle, like this really vicious circle that kept happening of like, I can't sleep. So my cortisol isn't managed. My cortisol continues to spike, and therefore I can't sleep. And
Yeah.
it took a while to dig myself out of that.
And it just feeds into everything. So,
Yep.
well, what are some of the common work-life balance mistakes and how can moms avoid them?
I think, and what I teach my clients, that almost everything goes back to what you value. Because when you know what you value, and this is like very much the culture specialist in me coming out. When you're clear on what you value, then all of a sudden you know what to prioritize. And when you know what to prioritize, you know how to expend your resources. And when you think about your resources that you can deplete, it's
Mhm.
time, it's money, it's energy. So getting clear on what you prioritize allows you to know exactly what to say yes to and exactly what to say no to. Because so often it's really tempting to
Mhm.
sign up for the volunteer thing or to raise your hand for the special project at work. And when you do that, you're inherently saying no to something else. You're saying yes to this volunteer thing or to the special project is more important than these other things that I'm having to say no to now because I don't have capacity. So when you start with what your big picture goal is, you start with those, your values, then
Mhm.
everything else moves downstream. So that's one of the biggest. The other mistake that I tend to see working moms specifically make tends to go back to perfectionism. So I always joke and say that I'm a recovering perfectionist, like Courtney 2.0, after like digging myself out as a recovering perfectionist. And what I mean by that is old me that was less wise, less mature, felt the need to control more than
Mhm.
serve me. And that showed up in very basic things, Diana. So an example might be, um, it showed up in my boys' closets. Like I needed their closet to be just as orderly as my closet. And like now that you have older kids, like it just all goes out the window when they're probably 4 or 5 anyway and start picking out their own stuff.
Yeah.
But at the time, I would spend a lot of calories on something that trivial.
Mhm.
And what I learned and what I work with many of my recovering perfectionist type clients on is I needed to relax my standards. I always call it a B minus stage of life. Where I am in life right now, when you have kids at home and you're spread so thin anyway, the only way that you can have real balance is to figure out how to relax those standards and let some of that go. And part of that was, even saying things like, gosh, I used to, playing off the laundry example, I would stay up at night and go take care of that laundry basket so it wouldn't be there when I woke up in the morning. And now
Yeah.
it's like, no, It's fine. It's not bothering anybody in the floor. And because I know I value my health, I need my sleep. So I'm going to
Mm,
prioritize my sleep because I know that's something that I value. So you can kind of see how the value system is a red thread that gets pulled through everything.
yep.
But also, going back to laundry as an example, I realized I couldn't do it all alone. I know that yes, of course, I didn't have family here. I couldn't fix that. But
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to do it all alone despite that. And unfortunately, that's just not a sustainable recipe. And because I didn't have help here, I had to get really smart about outsourcing. I didn't have a big budget at the time. And I still don't have a very big budget, but I had to be really, really crafty
Mm-hmm.
and was able to get rid of things for about 75 to $100 a week. One of those being laundry. In addition to a whole slew of meal prepping was another one. But I don't need the laundry to look perfect. I don't need it to be perfect. As much as I would love to do it and have it always done my way,
Yeah.
I can't work and be present for my kids, which is what I value and what I prioritize. And, and go to the gym in the mornings and get a full night's sleep. Like I can't do all of those other things that I say I value if I continue to hold the stick on the laundry, or I continue to hold meal prep, or I continue to hold any of these other things. So I had to get really resourceful about how I outsource in a way that I could afford to do it. So that way I could spend the time on the things that I do value as opposed to not.
Yeah.
So that's been a big one. And the last thing I would say is I stopped letting society tell me what my life needed to look like. And part of that includes when and how I get work done. So I have recognized that there's a lot more that I have power over that I let other people tell me it needed to be done this way. You have to work at this time. You have to work this way. You have to look like this or do this at these certain times. And I realize that everything is a conversation. So as an example, for me, I don't work a square 9 to 5. Like my hours are not consistent, they're not consecutive. And albeit that doesn't work for everybody, I started out in manufacturing, so I know what it's like to have very defined boundaries. And part of why I moved into consulting is so I would have a little bit more flexibility as I had kids. Um, but part of the old norm is work happens from 9 to 5. But that's
Mm-hmm.
not the way that I do life now. Like I will go to out. I'm not a morning person at all. So I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. to work. That's just never going to work for me. But I will get up, get the kids ready, get them on the bus, then go work out, which is the time when most people are starting work. Then I'll come back. I don't start my work until 10 o'clock. But then I get work done. I let that flow with me, and then I'm getting on later at night. So I've also kind of restructured, and every day I looks different, but I've restructured how I approach a legacy 9 to 5 and let my schedule flow a little bit more seamlessly between personal and professional, because I believe that boundaries are less about when things happen and more about the contract between what you do and how you do it.
Wow. I think you hit on some really, really great points, and you started with values, and it really is so important. Like, what's important to us? What is it that we value most, right? Then we put that priority at the top of the list. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you really hit some good points there. And so delegating, I mean, just become a master delegator, right? And you're right, the laundry, the meal prepping, like the things that consume your time, laundry can just take up so much time. So
Yep.
if you can find a way to get that off your plate, and really prioritize, like you're saying, it's a game changer. Definitely.
Yeah, and what I would say too is that delegating is hard because it is a learned skill.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to that control thing. So many people that have problems with work-life balance also have problems with their standards. As in, so
Mm.
I was valedictorian. I have very high standards. I take my grades very seriously. And yet I'm here to say I am doing a B minus job at almost everything right now because it's the only way that I can keep my head above water and still have a career, still be present at home, still have great relationships and a healthy marriage and all the things. So part of it is I've had to relax my standards, but also in order to open my life and the possibility of getting help, things are never going to be done the way I want to do them. And Diana, you know this with older kids, in order to teach responsibility to your kids, you have to ask them for help around the house. Well, that inherently naturally relaxes your standards because they have to learn. That's a process,
Right.
particularly
But they
with
don't always
boys.
do it as good. They don't always, it's
Oh,
hard. That's part of the thing that you have to let go, because it's like they're not going to do it as good as I do it, but I have to let go of some things,
that's
right?
it. That's it. You have to learn to relax your standards. And that's not easy. That is a muscle. And it goes back to what you value. I know, like going from the laundry example, because it's so practical and relatable, I get help. And actually my house manager is here now. I get help every single week with my husband's laundry and with my kids' laundry and doing mine. But putting it away is where I draw the line because I do still like my very clean lines in my closet. I like my socks folded a certain way, and we just weren't getting there. So like I've let go of a lot of other things, but I know out of that process, the one thing I value is that very final step. So she does 95% of it, and I come home with the final five. So what
Nice.
I talk to people about is it's a 10-80-10 rule. So you as the keeper of the order for most families, you as the mom, you set the 10%. That's the vision, that's the strategy. You're aligning everybody around that. Then you let other people come in and take over that middle 80%, whether that you delegate to local family, your partner, your kids, your neighbors, and sharing with responsibilities with them, whatever it may be. And then you come in and you do the final 10%. So
Mm,
that way you bookend the process and you get to button up the standards on the back end, but you're not doing the bulk of the work. And that's how delegation becomes a
wow.
skill that you can get a little bit more comfortable with, is knowing you've still got things kind of in control around the perimeter, but you're letting
Hmm.
somebody else do the bulk of kind of the energy that's expended to create that thing and make it happen.
Oh my God, that's so good. That's so good. But like you said, it's definitely something that, like a habit, right? Like you have to work at it and you have to work at it. And then finally, right, eventually it becomes part of your life. It
Right.
becomes the new tools, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
I love that. So how can moms stop feeling guilty for prioritizing work and themselves?
I believe that often, well, first of all, let's pull on the values thing again. When you know what you value, then it allows you to make decisions without guilt. So, as an example, because I have boys, and I know you'll appreciate this, um, I am like, honestly, one of my most paralyzing fears is not even that they're going to end up in the ER or whatever it may be. It's that they won't be close to me or they won't want to have a relationship with me after they leave home. Because so many men have tendencies to leave home and just, let the wife all of a sudden becomes the one that keeps a relationship with their mom instead of them. And
Hmm.
it's so important to me that my boys, when they leave, like they know I'm their number one and they've got like I'm in it for the rest of their life. So my belief, right, wrong, or indifferent, is that one of the ways that I can help encourage and foster that lifelong relationship is to find hobbies that we do right now that we always will get to do forever. And one of those hobbies is travel. I love to travel. I love to bring the boys on trips and show them, like, experience the world with them. And that's something that it's a hobby that all of us can grow with. Regardless of the
Hmm.
stage in life we're in, there's some element of travel that
Yeah.
you can do and can partake in. Now, the kicker though is that travel comes with a big dollar sign. So it is that dollar sign that inspires me to work. It's not like, yes, there's certainly other things I get out of work, intellectual stimulation, my ego, socialization, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's that value and pulling that thread of I want my future sons, like 15-year from now, boys, to be close with me when they leave, when they go
Mm-hmm.
get married, when they have their own kids. And I believe that one of the ways that I can accomplish that is to be taking trips with them because that will always give us something that we can talk about, plan, do together, whatever it may be. So everything I talk about in my programs with my clients on my podcast always goes back to values and how when you get clear on that, it's a red thread that you pull through. So I think part of it's that, Diana. The other thing that I find for most people is we tend to have some form of bias on what good looks like because
Mm-hmm.
of what our experience was growing up. So we might have had stay-at-home moms or mother-in-laws might have been, or it's because of what society or our neighbors or TV or something like that is telling us it needs to look like.
Right.
So success really shouldn't be defined by your neighbors, by TV. It should be defined by you. Also, your mother-in-law, your whatever, whatever you've experienced in the past, they
Mm-hmm.
got to do their life. They got to do them. Now it's your time to do you. So oftentimes the guilt we have is because of what we believe other people's expectations are of us, as opposed to our own expectation, or what other people have experienced, but their circumstances are very different than yours. So
Mm-hmm.
the more grounded you are on your decision making, which happens when you're clear on your values, then that allows you to like comb through some of that guilt and some of the expectations that
Right.
you're letting other people superimpose.
Yeah. So true. Just keep going back to those values, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Wow, that's so great. So how can moms set better boundaries between work and their home life?
I think that oftentimes boundaries are going back, I said this earlier, I believe, it's a conversation. So, first of all, once again, no surprise, when you're clear on what you value, then it makes it easier to say yes or no to something. It makes your decision making easier. But it also allows you to have a more honest conversation with other people. So, oftentimes we say words like, I don't have any boundaries. But when you say that, or work doesn't let me have boundaries, but oftentimes we don't ask. We never say, hey, work, hey, boss, this thing's really important to me. I need to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that on Tuesdays I'm out the door by this time. We don't say that. Or we allow people to have access to us and never actually put things away ourselves. Like that's a choice that we're making. And that's a choice that we're giving away ourselves for free,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And that is, again, it's a muscle. It's a muscle that's really hard to build, but it's a muscle. So boundaries at their core are essentially a social contract. And what I mean by that is I have to share, I have to communicate, I have to ask for
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is and share why it's important to me. Then we have to agree on those terms. And I mean, it's kind of like a soft handshake to be like, yes, I think that can work. But that gives you the opportunity to have more of a negotiating kind of conversation related to it. So that way you both know what you value and what the other person values, regardless if it's work or relationships or whatever it may be. And it gives you common language to anchor back to that you didn't have before. And then it's up to you to actually honor those. And that's the hard part. Most people,
Mm-hmm.
it's less in setting the boundaries, it's more in honoring the boundaries. And that becomes a discipline that you choose to either enforce or not enforce. And you have to be consistent. So, as an example, if you and your boss agree at 4:45 every Tuesday you're leaving because you need to go pick up your child to take them to dance class or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're sitting there picking up your phone or you're taking calls until 5 o'clock, well, even though you might feel that pressure, you are also letting them access you for free instead of saying, listen, remember, I have whatever it may be at 4:45. But also, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about letting life flow together. I really don't believe boundaries is a 9 to 5 thing because I don't believe that we can ever maximize ourselves and find true work-life balance if we are that compartmentalized about work versus play. For me, it's
Mm-hmm.
not 9 to 5 work, 5 to 9 home. Like that just is not realistic, particularly in this post-pandemic world. The world's a lot flatter. We're doing more stuff like this, Diana, where we're just very accessible. And the
Yeah.
9 to 5, 5 day work week, fun fact, was actually a deliberate decision by Henry Ford back in the early 1900s because that was his way of creating sales for his employees to buy his car. Well, what Ford Motor Company needed a century ago is not what we need now in this modern dual income era. So I really do believe on and like the schedule flowing together as much as your career allows it to be like healthcare teaching. Of course, there are some that do not, but to the degree that you can, I believe it flowing together. So I don't believe boundaries are like this hard 9 to 5, but
Mm-hmm.
more you actually having the courage to have the conversation and then being steadfast about honoring that boundary. And then part of the other play that I think comes into that is being like having practice on how to say no. So, as an example, my alma mater, Virginia Tech, I'm very involved in the department, the and systems engineering department there. And my department head came to me a couple months ago and she's like, "Hey, I would love for you to come speak at the class at this capstone class. Um, you know, you have a very unique offering because of your X, Y, and Z background that's different than other people's." And I had to be like, gosh, as much as that is one of the most fun things I do is engaging with kids, I have to say no. So I knew that
Mm-hmm.
because like from a capacity perspective, I value doing other things more at this stage in life. Like your values might change at this stage in life. I can't say yes to that. But in order for me to say no, I have to know how to say no. I have to do something like sharing the same level of enthusiasm that she with her request and being like, gosh, that sounds like a ton of fun and something I'd really enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
However, circumstances are different now. I don't have the capacity. I've taken on building working moms movement in addition to my corporate career. That leaves life looking really different for me than it did when I was initially engaging with the department. But then I have to invite her to come back later. That doesn't mean it's a no forever. It's just a
Yeah.
no right now. So I have that invitation. Then I always try to offer some sort of alternative recommendation. But have you tried this person or that person? So by having this formula, it gives me the courage to say no in a way that feels respectful of that person's request, but also still honors what I value and what I need at this stage in life. So I think that that has like that's part of honoring your boundaries is knowing what language you can use. And then the last thing I'd say on this point, Diana, is that often we inflate the difference between a wish list and a to-do list. So a
Mm.
wish list is about the things that don't have a hard and fast commitment related to them. Those are the things that you want to do that are aspirational and often going back to guilt, often weigh us down. They make us feel like we need to be doing more than we are. But
Mm-hmm.
those are aspirational items or wish list items for a reason. Whereas an actual to do is like, hey, I need to remember to sign this permission slip by the end of the day today before my kid can't go on the field trip. So, like, that's an actual to do versus a wish list item is something like, I want to organize my pictures from my family vacation. Like,
Mm.
that's the kind of thing that we let have stress on our shoulders when it shouldn't have any like burden on our day to day because it's just a wish list. But oftentimes, as it relates to boundaries, it is wish list related items that continue to scope creep into our life and
Mm.
like chisel away at the time that we want to honor for ourselves, but we don't because we let that scope creep happen. Those wish list items happen, regardless if the wish list is on ours or one of our bosses or our family members. Like we let that scope creep happen. And
Mm-hmm.
we let ourselves give ourselves away for free.
And it piles on too.
Yeah,
Just keeps
exactly.
piling on, and then you feel
Exactly.
overwhelmed and weighted down.
Yeah.
Um, but I love what you said about no. So just saying no, it really is like the boundaries and the no. I feel like they're attached, right? Like, and it's
Yes.
really getting good at saying no to things that you just don't want to do. I
Yep.
mean, it opens up so much free time, mental space, and even the guilt of saying no to things that you say yes to all the time.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly.
I find this with myself, but also like just with so many people that I know, right? Like everybody, it's really hard for people to say no because they want to be that nice person. They want to do the classroom, the mom thing for the
Yeah,
classroom,
they
the
do.
party.
And when you say again where we started, when you say yes to that, you're saying no to something else that you really do value.
Right.
So
Right.
oftentimes too, females in general feel the need to justify our no. No is a complete sentence, and I get it. Like I am super uncomfortable being like no.
That's a
Like
complete.
that does like it just does not sit with my personality. It makes me feel
Oh,
so uncomfortable. But we also don't actually need to justify ourselves. Like if we are invited to a party or we are asked to volunteer, we can just say no. We don't have to
mm,
be like, no, because it really can be just a no. However, if you are like me and you are uncomfortable just saying no, that formula of share enthusiasm, explain current circumstances, invite to revisit later, and offer alternative recommendations, like to me, that feels more authentic.
right.
But
You have the
it is,
formula, you work through the
yep,
formula, and you just
exactly.
keep doing it until it just becomes natural and you're okay with it. Wow.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a muscle. You definitely have to build that muscle.
Yay. Wow. That is such great stuff. Thank you so much. I mean, it was all so good. I love the boundaries and the vision. I think starting with a vision is just really, so important, right? I mean, just
Yeah.
start there. Just what are your values? Most people I don't even think go through it and even know what their values are. Although they live them, they're not conscious about like, what are my values, right? Maybe family is a value
Well, they
and they're
say family, but there's a lot you have to double click on beneath that. Like almost
Mhm.
everybody I talk to, I go into a room, I'll be like, who says they know their value or who thinks they know their values? And the hands are iffy. I'm like, if I was to ask you, do you believe family is your number one value? Everyone's like, yes, that's me. But the problem is you can't stop there. It's double clicking from that that really matters because it's the
Mm.
double click that will inform your decision making, inform your boundaries, inform what you're willing to commit to and what you have to say no to and that sort of thing.
Mm. So what's the double click? Like you mean like layers, like going deeper into the family dynamic? Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
family's important, but what about this cousin that's really like, a
Well,
problem,
yes. Well,
right?
it could be, family could be your nuclear family or your extended family. It could mean, what about like as it relates to family, is it that you want your kids to be self-sufficient? Is it that you want your kids to be independent contributors? Is it that you want your kids to be the top in their class and want to have like a high education? Is it you want them to be a kind person? Is it you want them to be a study in religion?
Mm.
Like there's a
Going
lot
deeper.
beneath
Yeah.
family and how you parent.
Hmm.
But so you have to really understand that next layer, that double click to to know why you are choosing to send them to a Catholic school versus a private school versus a public school as an example. Because are
Hmm.
you prioritizing their relationship with their religion, their academic success and ability to get into the
Mm.
next college, or insulating them from things that you think they'll be exposed to in public school. Like what or like diversity. All depending on what you value beneath that double click of family will even influence how it'll influence how you parent, how you spend your time. Again, you have three resources, time, money, and energy. And until you
Hmm.
understand what you value, it makes it really hard to be intentional about how you expend each of those things.
Wow. I love that. Just going deeper on that. I don't think I've even gone that deep with my values. So,
Well, a lot of people don't. And it is one of the easiest ways to be more intentional. And the more
mhm.
intentional and calculated you are with how you use those resources, the less you waste. So, to bring this full circle where we started, Diana, my background is in industrial and systems engineering. It's where I started. It's all about efficiency and effectiveness. And the biggest way that you can maximize your life and your free time and manage your stress is to be intentional with what you spend your resources on, your time, money, and energy resources. And in order to do that, you have to know what you value. So it all like comes full circle.
Full circle. Yep. Yep. Wow. Thank you so much. I loved that. I loved all of it. That was so good. Thank you. So, Courtney, would you like to share? She's offering a free gift today. And if you'd like to share what that is and tell us a little bit about it.
I would love to. Well, first of all, Dana, once again, I'd like to reiterate how much I appreciate you having me here. But what I have for y'all, you can access it at www.workingmomsmovement.com/todo, TODO. But it's essentially a guide to help you more productively manage your to-do list. So often, a lot of the moms that I engage with, apropos to this conversation, struggle with boundaries. And one of the reasons they do is because they're not really sure how to productively manage their to-do list. They're letting everything fall on their shoulders, and it keeps them or prohibits them from staying true to what they want. But in this guide, you're going to learn how you can more productively manage it and some of those traps that you might be falling in that are keeping you from actually getting those things done. But also, so often the to-do list is something that a mom or a female specifically says this like thinks it sits purely on their shoulders. They don't believe that they are getting equal and reliable support from their male partner. So if that is you, if you're saying like I need my husband to like kind of step it up a little bit, I also have a section in there about how you can manage him more productively. So that way, like you meet him where they are. It's kind of the men are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of thing. Like they think differently. So you have to engage them differently. And the way that you help pull them along and get them to take some of that workload from you. So if you are struggling with managing your workload, it probably goes back to how you're managing your to-do list. If you want to learn how to do that more strategically, want to learn how to engage your male partner more strategically, then you can grab that at workingmomsmovement.com/to-do.
Okay, awesome. And there'll also be a link below this video that you can get that as well. And I am definitely be signing up for that freebie. So thank you so much. Thank you, Courtney. This has been really amazing and enlightening. And I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to spend with us and talk about these important topics.
The
Thank you
pleasure's
so
all mine,
much.
Dana.
All right.